Describe how to install and test a capacitive proximity sensor. A capacitive proximity sensor can be installed by mounting the sensor and wiring its leads to a control device such as a PLC. A capacitive sensor is often mounted with a bracket or plate and oriented so that it is pointed toward the target location. Many proximity sensors have a threaded body that allows the sensor to be screwed directly into a tapped hole. Threaded body sensors may also be mounted to a flat plate by inserting the sensor into a hole in the plate and tightening down the sensor using nuts and lock washers. Other sensors may have a square or rectangular mounting bracket that is secured using either screws or nuts and bolts. A capacitive proximity sensor may provide either 2, 3, or 4 wires for connecting the sensor to the circuit. 2-wire sensors are usually connected from one side of a power supply, typically 24 volts DC, directly to the controller input. Three-wire sensors provide 2 wires for connection to both output terminals of a DC power supply and a third wire to provide a signal to a control device. Four-wire sensors usually provide 2 wires for connection to the power supply, as well as 2 wires that provide both normally open and normally closed sensor outputs. The user chooses which of the outputs to connect to the controller depending on the application. The remaining wire may simply be connected to an unused terminal block or capped using a wire nut and black tape. Some 4-wire devices allow the remaining wire to be connected to a second controller. To test the sensor, it must be actuated, preferably by using the actual target to be sensed during normal operation. A metallic or non-metallic instrument may alternately be used to trip the sensor if needed, depending on whether the actual target is metallic or not. Many capacitive proximity sensors have an indicator light that illuminates when a target is detected to help verify the operation of the sensor. Because the sensor operates like a switch, test it by measuring its input and output. If the sensor light illuminates, the problem is more likely on the output side, so test it first. To test the output, measure the voltage at the sensor and at the controller input. Doing so verifies that the sensor output is good and that voltage is reaching the controller input. To test the input, measure the voltage at the power supply and at the sensor. If the input voltage is missing, the problem is not with the sensor. If the input voltage is present, but the output voltage is not, the sensor is bad, open, or the load is shorted. If the output voltage is correct, but the load is not working, the load is open. Describe the operation of a photoelectric sensor and give an application. Describe